What does it mean to be an environmentalist? Is it enough to merely do what is environmentally friendly or achieve things that have environmentally good outcomes? And if we can't do those things, does it mean that we're not true environmentalists? Or is there something more to it? There are many people in this world who we consider to be environmental heroes, people who we admire for doing profoundly moral things for environmental causes. These people, whether they be internationally known for their activism, posthumously recognized for their careers work, or are a neighbor who simply strives to reduce their community's carbon footprint, they are all respected for the work that they achieve and the sacrifices they make along the way. But why is it that we admire such individuals? No doubt they have done profound things that we admire, and they have made sacrifices along the way. But perhaps what we truly respect are the individuals themselves. Not just the actions they perform or the rules that they decidedly live by, but their character and attitude that allow them to do so. We look to people like Julia Butterfly Hill, who lived in a Californian redwood tree, the very same trees that you see around me now. She stayed in this tree that she affectionately named Luna, in order to stop the Pacific Lumber Company from cutting it and the surrounding trees down.
We're on. So I was asking you a question a minute ago, and was it, how do you find living up here?
Surviving.
Surviving up here.
And what this experience has really taught me is about how to not only survive, but how to thrive. Because I have learned how little thriving I did in my life.
It was here that Hill ascended 55 meters, living on a 6-foot by 6-foot platform for 738 days, over 2 whole years. Here, Hill faced consistent barrages from freezing rains, winds reaching over 60 kilometers an hour, and the constant threat from loggers and company security. All of this to save a forest of trees from being clear-cut for profit. Most of the world wouldn't have blinked an eye if those trees had disappeared. In the grand scheme of logging and environmental degradation, a few hundred redwood trees wouldn't be worth much to most. Certainly not worth foregoing modern luxuries and solid ground for 2 years straight. If those trees were cut down, the world would continue none the wiser, albeit slightly less environmental and slightly less moral. But for those who chose to listen and to watch what Hill was doing, they would have been astounded by her courage, sacrifice, and compassion shown over those 2 years. In sacrificing many, if not all, of the comforts of modern life, Hill's attitude and perseverance were truly admirable. And I think from this, we can begin to see what makes an environmentalist. Perhaps it's not so much about what we do or the impact that our actions have. No, maybe what matters most is our character when faced with tough environmental challenges. After all, it's first the person who sacrifices much and performs that action that we so readily admire. If we were to value environmentalists based on their actions alone, we would fundamentally exclude those who simply cannot do such things, even if they hold the same beliefs and attitudes as other environmentalists. For this reason, we shouldn't limit the scope of environmentalism to what we can or can't do, but rather to the attitudes we embody when faced with environmental challenges. And so we are left with the character of a person that defines them as an environmentalist, and less so their actions, though this is still important. It's with this character that we should strive to develop certain attitudes that lead us to do the right thing when faced with tough environmental decisions. We can develop attitudes by learning from people like Julia Hill and other environmentalists. Attitudes such as compassion, modesty, an ecological sensitivity, temperance and wonder. One might even call these environmental virtues. These virtues of environmentalism, more than simply giving us the right dispositions to be better environmentalists, can help guide us to do the right things when faced with tough ethical decisions. In honing these virtues that lead to positive, sustainable behavior, we can more readily make environmental decisions and act in environmentally sensitive ways. This is what I think makes an environmentalist. Not the admirable actions you take or the sacrifices you make. No, what makes an environmentalist are the virtues you embody. It's these same virtues that guide us to make these small changes in our lives, as well as the big ones. The courage to climb 55 meters into the sky is the same courage we use when we go to protest for climate justice. The charity we exercise is the same, whether we are founding our own non-for-profit or donating our time to a non-for-profit. Our temperance is felt the same, whether it's from minimizing our shopping habits or living a life of voluntary simplicity. And our wonder for the natural world is ever present in all these decisions, so long as we remember the value that nature holds. Julia Butterfly Hill was able to stop Luna and the other redwood trees from being logged. In 1999, an agreement was made to preserve the trees. In exchange, a payment was made to the logging company by Hill and the other activists, and she was able to descend the tree, perhaps more virtuous than when she had ascended. And while it was only a small victory in the fight for ecological preservation, those of us who can see the value of the natural world can learn much from the actions of Julia Hill, so that we may act with the same virtue that she did.
To some people, I'm just a dirty tree-hugging hippie. But I can't imagine being able to take a chainsaw to something like this. I think before anyone should ever be allowed to cut down trees like this, they should be mandated to live in it for 2 years.